have speech delay, the reading program is really important. Now, also, any child who has a speech issue, we look at it from the respiratory standpoint. Okay, so even if that child is running, jumping, if the child does not speak, chances are that they actually have a respiratory issue as well. So again, like I said, in our Doman method course, we talk about the first stages of the respiratory programs that we offer our families, which can really help with speech development. Okay, but if you can't get that started right now, and if you want to, again, try and help your child's language output, get them moving, get them outside, get them running around, get them walking, get them crawling and creeping, whatever they can do, because that is going to improve the respiratory system, okay? This is going to help with increasing their lung capacity. They're going to be able to regulate their breathing a lot better, and we need to do all of that to speak, okay? So by giving the child mobility opportunity, you're organizing the brain up here, you're helping the respiration, so it's easier for them to talk, okay? And again, our program is completely integrative. So if a child does have speech problems, well, guess what? We may be also looking at sensory things that you can do to help improve the auditory pathway so the output can be better for that child. Okay, sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm going to go through. Okay, so visual stimulation. So yes, if a child has any issues of cortical visual impairment, they have issues with the optic nerve, okay? Visual stimulation helps to open the pathway to the brain, all right? So again, that book, How Smart Is Your Baby?, talks about all the different activities that you can do just to stimulate vision, okay? So if your child cannot see very well, they aren't able to recognize facial expressions, they can't see outlines passing in front of them, that book is going to start giving you the stepping stones you need to start opening up that visual pathway, okay? Now, there's also a question here about direct light in the eye and if that can trigger seizures or epileptic spasms, okay? So in most cases, we really don't have to worry about that, okay? It's usually not a problem, and if anything, the brain starts to get stimulated in ways it never has before. But if it's not something that you feel comfortable doing, again, the book will give you lots of different things that you can do to try and stimulate your child's vision where you're not shining a direct light in their eye, okay? But for the vast majority of kids, if you start off gradually, if you start off with a very short amount of time, a few times a day, and slowly build it up, the brain and the eye will start to perceive that better and better, and will be able to handle that stimulation, okay? All right. All right, here's a good question. So I know that there are a lot of therapists and specialists out there, and I really thank you for tuning in today. It's been great, and I hope to hear from you and meet you at some point. Now, there's a question here about what kind of books you can read besides the What to Do book, okay, especially for those who are speech therapists. So I think probably if you're going to read any book next, I would recommend reading the How to Teach Your Baby to Read or Fit Baby, Smart Baby, Your Baby. Okay. How to Teach Your Baby to Read, again, is the program where you're giving the visual input of reading, which can stimulate those certain areas of the brain. And of course, Fit Baby, Smart Baby, Your Baby gives you motor things that you can do with the child in order to help improve respiration. So again, if the respiratory aspect of speech is there, the child is going to do a lot better. So if I would say those two books if you're going to read something next. Okay. All right. Okay, so there's a question here about how do you wake up empathy and emotions in children? And this, I think I'll do my best to answer this question. And I generally find that with our kids, especially those who don't seem to express a whole lot, okay, even though it's an emotional thing, the brain is still dictating those emotions, okay? So anything that you can do to stimulate the brain, to get it exercising, to oxygenate it, to make sure it's well fed, okay, with time, you'll start to see that the doors will be opening to, with regards to a child's emotional expression. Okay, now that being said, a lot of times what we see is that for some kids, we have this phenomenon where you're not getting a whole lot of emotion out of the kid, and then boom, all of a sudden it's just like emotional overload. They don't know how to regulate it. Okay, so again, if a child is on a very good neurological organization program, it will help them to start expressing that emotion more. Okay, but also if a child has a big range of emotions and they can't seem to control it, with more stimulation, they will learn how to start to regulate those areas of the brain. Okay, so there's nothing specific that we do to help increase emotional output. It's just like a secondary result of the program that the children do at home. How to wake up? Okay. All right, so how to treat brain injury, specifically cerebral palsy, knowing it is a state with multiple challenges. Okay, so again, for a child who comes through our doors who has been labeled as cerebral palsy, okay, we forget that label, okay? We look at the child based on how they evaluate with us. So what functions they can or cannot do because of their brain injury, all right? And again, we design an integrative program to help stimulate the brain. All right. So it's never just one thing. For a child with CP, we're going to give them a motor program that's going to help them to move better. We're going to give them a sensory program so they know how it feels to move better. We're going to give them a respiratory program so that their breathing can improve and that they can stimulate the brain and get the food to the brain that they need. Okay. And of course, are typically cerebral palsy kids. They're very, very intelligent. So we also have to give them lots and lots of information through the reading program to just keep improving that intelligence and to improve that language output and things like that. So that's how we treat children, any child with brain injury. We give them an integrative program that helps all of those areas. And, we do that just because this is what we have done for decades, and it's the way we get the best results. We don't do this now, but obviously when we first started out, we were just handling the motor pathways, and we weren't getting the results that we wanted. But many, many years ago, Glenn figured out, again, you have to have multiple different things going on to get the best results and to achieve the best results in organizing that brain. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. All right, but yeah, you got to make sure that your child is getting several different things to help treat the brain. All right, now this is a more practical question. I love this question. What do we do if we eliminate dough and sweets and bad foods from our child's diet when that's the only thing that they eat? Okay, that's a real tough one. And anytime a family comes to the course whose child has not been on the best diet possible, you see those parents in the office, in the auditorium when you're teaching them, and their eyes are this big because they're thinking like, I am taking out every food that's in my child's diet right now. And I'll say this, there are two ways to really go about it. Some parents do the cold turkey approach where they just say, we're getting rid of all of them, okay? Or parents will take them out gradually. So they maybe start with one food and they take that out, and once it's out, they start with the next one, okay? But I think any child who has a very picky palate. Oh, I gotta. Okay. So any child who has a very picky palate and they only eat a certain range of foods, it's going to be rough going the first couple days. I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk. Okay. No pun intended here, but all right. But the first couple days, yeah, your child may not eat a whole lot, but eventually nature just kind of kicks in and says, look, kid, we got to eat. And it sounds kind of tough, but it's just one of these things sometimes that you have to wait it out. You have to be patient. And if you are changing your child's diet and you're taking out foods that they have been eating for a long time and you're introducing foods that they've never had, be patient. And one thing that really helps is that you just have a very set time. So you say breakfast happens at this time, lunch happens at this time, dinner happens at this time. You put the food out for your child. If they eat it, great. If not, you just move on and you wait until the next meal. Now, they may tell you or they may communicate with you in some way like, I'm really hungry now. And if it's close enough to that meal time, you can offer it again. But having a really regimented food schedule helps with this too. All right. So it's a big change. I know it's a big thing to ask for, but if you're really consistent with it, the first few days are always going to be the toughest, but the child will adapt to it. Okay. All right. Are there any other elements of play since you showed, I'm guessing it's this besides showing letters and reading, and do we make connections with visual stimulation? So pictures. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. It's, we do not have our kids with reading words just like this all day long. Okay. That can get a little not fun sometimes. All right. So depending on a child's vision, okay, yeah, of course, we have to open the pathway by giving them images that are big, bright, and bold. All right. So if a child is not yet ready for that reading program, parents will start off with big detail cards or even outline cards. So just black and white. Okay. So you have to open the pathway this way. And of course, when you are doing a reading program, when it's time to do things like sentences and homemade books, of course you're going to have pictures and those things. It's, and the kids love that part. Now, down the line, we do also have programs. We have a program called the Doman card program, which are images with information on the back to start teaching the children that way. Okay. And with regards to the question about element of play, of course, okay, parents have to get really creative with with the things that they do to play, okay? If you're putting a 2.5-year-old on the floor and you're trying to get them to crawl more, you have to play games with them, and you have to keep it fun and dynamic. So get creative. You're going to crawl on the floor and play crocodiles, or you're going to creep on your hands and knees and sorry, somebody's car alarm is going off outside. But you're going to creep on your hands and knees and you're going to pretend to be animals. You're going to run after whatever. Okay. So there's lots of play. And that is, I didn't mention this in exact words, but this program works if you're having fun. Okay. Have fun, play games, be creative. All right. That's going to be really important for the success of it. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So the next question is about our experience with children who cannot swallow or eat, or they're fed through a PEG tube. Okay. Now, of course, every once in a while, we do have a child who's on tube feeding. Okay. And of course, the first thing that we do is we have to make sure that the food that's going in is healthy. Okay. So we teach parents what to do in order to abide by our nutritional guidelines and continue the tube feed. But of course, just like anything, our ultimate goal is if a child has been on a peg tube or they're tube feeding, we need to get them neurologically organized enough to be able to eat by mouth. Okay. And our ultimate goal is to get them off of the tube. It's a big challenge. It's not easy to do, but we have many kids who start on the program who have been tube fed and they can get off of it. Okay. And as that child's respiration improves, and as they get more neurologically organized, we're able to start giving parents the steps they need to do that. Okay. Now, that being said, we also work very closely with that child's doctor at home as well. Okay. This has to be something where it's a team effort. All right. And it's a very careful transition that we make, but it is possible. Okay. All right. Okay. This is a great question. Due to our lifestyle alone with two small kids, what if I cannot follow a day-to-day program? Okay. This is a great question. And of course, the more kids that are in the picture, the more challenging it can get and the more you have to be organized, right? But look, I think that being said, if you're just starting out, what I would recommend is you just pick one or two things to do with your child and do those things on a more or less consistent basis. Okay. So if you have, a 2-year-old and a baby at home who still needs a lot of your attention, you got to be fair to yourself. You have to be fair to the time that you know you can allocate. All right. So if that means that you just start with one thing with your child, awesome. It's a great step in the right direction. Okay. And once that's going well, you kind of got the hang of it. You're in the swing of things and you say, all right, I think I can start this next thing now. And that's when you start the next thing. So everything that I've recommended today, you're not going to hit the ground running and do all of it. Okay. Start with a couple of things and see if you can do that consistently at home. Okay. And look, our families on the program, we have lots of families where the brain injured kid is the only kid. We have other families where there are 3 or 4 kids, right? And if the other siblings are old enough, get them involved, okay? This program is a whole family. It is a team effort, okay? I've seen some really amazing 6 and 7-year-olds who are in charge of making sure they have the siblings tactile stimulation kit, with all the things that they need for that, or they help with certain parts of the program. Even just having the siblings on the floor together, crawling and creeping together. It's a great thing. You should be doing the program together. And I've seen many families where it's the oldest kid is the brain injured kid, and then there are new younger siblings in the picture now, and the parents just get the whole family involved. So that's another way that you can really start to implement things, even though you have multiple kids. Okay. All right. All right. Do we have any professional support if I'm not sure I'm doing everything right? Okay. Well, actually, and I think this may answer a couple of other questions for parents, because I see we had some things in there about follow-up support. So obviously we have the Doman method course, okay, from special needs to wellness. If that is not something you can do right now, okay, or you're interested in getting started with a Doman method program at home, we do have something called a pre-course consultation, okay, where essentially you send in a questionnaire asking just some major questions about your child. And then you can have a 1-hour conversation with a staff member like myself to go over your child's program. Okay. And for 1 month after that call, you can email that staff member and ask any other questions that you might have. Now, this is, again, designed to help parents who are planning to take the course. They'd like to get some things started before coming. Okay. But for those families out there who don't think they can afford a course right now, this can be a really good option too. Okay, so it is a way to get some support from us and to start getting those steps, start making those steps in the right direction to start a program. Okay. What is your experience? Okay. Let's see. I know I've gotten a lot more questions in. Okay. So this is a great question. So what is the difference between yours and other methods such as Voita or Bobath? And what are the advantages to our method? So, as I explained, the Voita, things like Voita, Bobath, some of these traditional therapies, remember, they're really only focusing on one thing. They're only focusing on developing the motor pathway, all right? But if they're not addressing the sensory things, you're not going to get quite the results that you want. Okay. And like I said before, most of these traditional therapies, you go and you see somebody once a week, once every 2 weeks. Some of the more motivated parents, and I think probably a lot of parents like you, they pick up and see what the therapist is doing and they do it more at home. Okay. So it's not, maybe it might not even be the therapy itself. It may just be that parents are extra motivated and they do it more at home, right? So the advantage, again, to our method is that it addresses all the different pathways, all right? It addresses the sensory issues that might be going on so that we can get motor output, all right? And, again, we've seen kids come through our doors who have done 10 years of speech therapy and haven't gotten any results with it. And then within 6 months, 12 months of the program that they do with us, when they're getting a nutrition program, a respiratory program, a physical program, et cetera, then parents will finally start to see language output out of their kids. Okay. So again, I think the advantage of the Doman method is that integrative approach. You're getting a bunch of different things in order to help that brain grow and develop. Okay. Do you use your method with deaf and blind children? Absolutely. Absolutely, we do. Okay, that's it. I'm going to just say that. We absolutely work with blind and deaf children with some pretty good results, too. Okay, now I have a question here saying that this person has read all of our books, or they're reading them right now, and people have asked to explain the chart in the books. I'm guessing this means the developmental profile, right? Okay, so again, How Smart is Your Baby is a good book because it basically discusses every block of that developmental profile from level 4 down. So like those lower level abilities in the brain, it really explains that quite nicely. So the profile itself, we really don't teach parents how to start using it until they've come to that Doman method course. In the course, we have several hours where we go over block by block by block what each of those things mean, what functions are necessary in each of those areas, and how parents can use that at home to diagnose their kids. All right. It's a beautiful chart, and once you understand it and you know how it works, it's really amazing. But the books themselves do give you some insight as to what those different functions are. It may not be a complete overlook, not overlook. It may not be a complete overview like we do in the course, but it will give you some idea with regards to the developmental chart. Okay, and who knows, maybe that's a good topic for another possible webinar down the line. Who knows? Just like an intro to it. Okay, so let's see. So do you put children to stand even though they don't have stability in the pelvis or does not have walking? Okay, all right. So with standing, so if a child is not yet walking independently, this is something that we do have to be very careful with. And I think that in a lot of traditional therapies, the focus is walking. We got to get the kid walking. And of course, that's our focus too. If we have an immobile kid, we got to get them independent and just like every other child, right? But the problem is that a lot of people overlook the importance of crawling and creeping to walk independently. If you don't have those two steps, it's going to be a lot harder for that child to learn how to walk on their own. Okay, so again, with that standing and with that walking, you do have to be careful. Some kids do not have the stability in the hips, and therapists are putting them up to stand. They really shouldn't be doing it, because you can run the risk of hurting those hips. Okay, so when we see a child, yes, we have standing environments, and we teach parents how to use them so that they're safe and that the child is, their hips are okay. But we don't start those programs until a child has had a lot of good opportunity on the floor first, and then they're starting to develop other abilities like crawling and creeping. Okay, now a lot of people have asked questions about prices and how to apply for the program, and I think I'll answer those things last. Hold on, let me see. Okay, this is a good question. Do certain supplements really help with neurological problems, or is this just marketing? I love it. Okay. All right. So when we design a nutrition program for our kids, obviously the number one thing is that you have to supplement with good, healthy foods first. Okay. That is our primary source of nutrients, of vitamins, of minerals. Okay. Now, that being said, we do introduce certain supplements to our child's programs because we need to make sure that digestion is really as good as it should be. Okay. And yes, absolutely. There are definitely supplements that can help with brain growth and development. A supplement like omega fatty acids. This is really important, that the brain is getting good fats to support that brain growth and development. Okay. And of course, there are plenty of other ones, but the supplements that we usually prescribe to our children, certainly they help with the neurological support, but it's, a lot of it is designed to help with digestion, to help improve immunity. We do use supplements in those ways. And yes, there are some that can help with brain growth and development. Now, my personal philosophy is to keep it simple when it comes to supplements. I think some parents, they get so worked up and they read so many different things about all these different supplements. And I see kids come in for their first appointment on like 25 different things. And I'm like, whoa, wait, too much. So when we design a nutrition program for our kids, we don't do that unless we've looked very carefully at that child's blood work. We see what their biggest struggles are from a health standpoint, and we design a supplement program for them based on their needs. Okay. All right. What kind of specialists give dietary advices? So on our staff, we have several different certified nutritionists. We have Manuela Martini, who hopefully you'll meet at some point, but she is a nutritionist, but she's also a trained homeopath. We have a couple of Ayurvedic doctors, so medical doctors who are trained in traditional Indian medicine that help with our nutrition programs. So we do have quite a bit of experience behind us, and a really nice range of experience too, with naturopathy, homeopaths, things like that. So it's been very good, for sure. Are helping. Oh, this is a great question too. Are helping devices usually limiting factors, or sometimes can they help make a child progress too? Okay, so when it comes to certain devices, again, the thing you have to be asking yourself, is this something that my child will eventually not need? Okay, and most things like the AFOs, walkers, et cetera, when we see some of these older kids, they've been using them for years, and nobody has given them any kind of idea when they're going to stop using them. Okay. Remember, our goal for our kids is complete and total wellness. And in most cases, those traditional devices and those things like that, chances are they're not really going to help the child progress all that much. And that it's because of that simple fact that the child is dependent on it. They have never learned how to function without it. So again, any child that comes to us, any environment, any program, or any device that we use with them, it has to be completely self-eliminating. All right. So I think that's really something you just have to ask yourself about the different things your child is using, and just really say, like, is this something that they're not going to need at some point? Okay. All right. So I think I'm just looking at the time. So I think probably what I'll do is I'll answer the questions about the course, about the cost and things like that. And then I think we'll call it for the questions. Now, if your question did not get answered, please reach out to us. I do want to make sure that we answer them. And of course, if you have any further questions, I'll be sending contact information to Nika, and Nika will pass that on to everybody here. Okay. So with regards to the Doman method course, okay, so again, this is a 3-day intensive course. For families who may not be able to take it now, we do have that pre-course consultation as an option. But if you want to come and take the course, if you're ready to get, all of the bases of our programs, the price of the course for a single person is 1,625 euros, and for a couple, it's 2,780 euros. Okay. Now this includes the price of the course, meals, coffee, the staff's time, and it covers all the expenses for the course as well. Okay. Now, for families who are interested in coming for appointments, because I saw a couple of those questions as well, the first prerequisite is that you do have to come and take the Doman method course. Okay. And that's just simply because we go over the primary philosophies of all of our basic programs, and we want our parents to take that first just because they need to have that basis. But once you've taken the course, if you're interested in coming for an appointment, then you would come and you would ask us to start organizing that, and we could get the ball rolling. But the first requirement is that you would have to come and take the Doman method course. Let me see if there's any other course questions. How much does the treatment and your continuous work with the child cost? Okay, so we can send this information later, I think, but the first really important step, again, is to come and take the course. And if you are interested in coming for an appointment, we can provide that information later. And of course, please, at any point, if you have questions about that, I do want you to reach out to Wanda Zangi. She could give you that information as well. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And the people, there are a lot of people talking, say they want us to come and do the course for them. So I think this is something that our staff and I would have to talk about. But of course, if there's enough interest in a certain country or in a certain region for us to come and take and do the Doman method course, we just, we have certain requirements that have to be made, but if there's enough interest, we can make it happen. Okay. And I know for my husband and I, we have both been to Serbia. We've both been to that region of the world several times and just absolutely love it. And we will find just about any excuse to get back there. So again, if there's enough interest for that course, we can certainly discuss this and see if we can make it happen very soon. Okay. All right. I think that's it. So again, if I did not answer your question, please don't fret. Write us. We will get it answered. And if you have any further questions, I've provided Wanda's information. I'll be sending information to Nika as well so that you can get a hold of us. Okay. Well, again, I want to thank you all for joining me today. I really hope that this has been insightful and that you can get things started right now at home with your brain injured kids. And please let us know what kind of successes you have. And if you run into any problems, if you have any questions, we're here to help in the best way possible. Okay. So again, I want to thank Alex and Nika Girgich. Thank you so much for putting this together. This has been a lot of fun, and that's it. So, Kabbalah, and I hope to talk to you all very soon. Okay? Take care.